Hey there, Money Heroes. It's Stephanie, your host and fellow explorer on the Be Your Money Hero podcast. We're diving into the nitty-gritty of personal finance and having real conversations about how money, spirituality, psychology, and our life stories all dance together. This podcast is educational, but I'm not a therapist, and my guests and I cannot offer personalized advice through a podcast. My goal is to create a safe place for you to learn and get curious about yourself and expand the way you've thought about money. So if you're ready, let's dive in. Today we have Kimberly Young. She's worked with children for over 30 years as a teacher and a pediatric health educator. And she's now dedicated herself to raising awareness on the seriousness of the epidemic of bullying. She has written this powerful new book, which my own kiddo has enjoyed. It's called From Bullied to Brave. Kimberly is helping children and parents and educators equip themselves to develop their self-awareness, their self-confidence, and their resilience to rise above their experiences of being bullied in order to create the future that they want and deserve. Our goal today is for you to take away some tools to help you envision the healthiest version of yourself so that you can begin to take some small steps towards a confident you. So, Kimberly, thank you for being here today.
Oh, thank you. I am just thrilled to be here.
Will you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to be an author and a little bit about this work that you're doing?
Sure. So, well, as you explained, I have a background in health education and working with children. And the last few years, I actually was a science teacher for grades K to 3. And one of the things that I started hearing that was happening in a neighboring school district was about youth suicide. And sadly, I found out in Colorado that suicide is the number one cause of death for adolescents. So, and we're actually sadly one of the top states in that having that issue. And so as a teacher, I just made a very kind of quiet wish. And that was if someday I could do something to help youth, help them improve their mental health, then I would love to do that. And I find that when I make those like gentle requests to the universe or spirit, however you see that, they're actually quite powerful. So a couple of years later, I was in a writing retreat, and this man who runs the retreat, I really love his work because he believes that everyone has a book in him, in them. Everyone has a book in them. So I wrote and wrote and wrote. And then the last day, I started writing about my experience of being bullied in middle school. And I just knew as I wrote it, I'm like, oh my goodness, this is my mission. And this is the audience that I'm going to be speaking to, which is tweens and their parents, and also going out to schools. And it's interesting because there's actually a video. I did a video at the end of the writing workshop, and I'm like, yes, I knew my audience. And then I was like, oh, kind of afraid because I'd done so much work with little kids and not as much work with tweens. And now, though, after having published the book and starting to speak and being on podcasts and offering classes, I've become very comfortable with this work and embracing it, and actually feel very blessed to be able to do this.
Would you mind sharing a little bit about that experience that you had in middle school and kind of the effects that maybe it's had throughout your adulthood?
Sure. So the stories in my book, From Bullied to Brave, it's based on my true story. I did change it to update it to modern times. So basically for me, when I started middle school, my best friend was there. It was wonderful. We had lunch together. And there was a third girl who joined our group, and that was great. I liked her. But for some reason, she did not like me. And little by little, I could see her leaving me out of the conversation. And then what eventually happened is she turned the whole class against me. So I was in honors classes. So I had the same kids. I didn't even switch kids for, different classes. So basically the whole class turned against me. So there were phone calls, there were letters. I mean, she eventually tripped me and I broke like all the things I had in my hand. And I'd say the worst experience was when I walked up to the cafeteria table, ready to sit down with all my friends, and everyone got up and left. And I was standing there just looking at an empty table. And that image haunted me for a long time. And it's only just recently, with one of the tools I share in the book, that I was able to heal that.
From a psychological standpoint, we humans are such herd animals. We need our community. And so to be left at a table like that, you would have experienced real pain. And I can only imagine how that would always stick with you.
Yes.
How do you feel like that fear of abandonment has carried forward throughout your adulthood, or have there been things that you've had to work through because of that bullying that you went through in middle school?
Yeah. So I've had to work on my self-worth of, loving myself for who I am. And to me, everyone is a divine spark. We're soul. So loving myself for that beautiful divine being and person that I am.
How did you start that journey?
Well, I started that journey, a lot of it by just changing my image. So changing the image of myself. So affirmations, drawing, and I'll explain, I think this is a good example. So that time when I went up to the cafeteria table and everyone left. So I worked with a coach and she actually used my own tool. So it's really cool. So what she asked me was, what good came from that experience? And I thought about it. And there were two boys who became my friends, and they were wonderful. They were even my champions. Like I used to love to run track, and one of them actually came, and did cheer me on, and they were just great. So I switched that image of being abandoned to realize I moved to a new table with people who were true friends. And then I took it one step further so I can have anyone at my table. So now I imagine when I go out in the world, I'm inviting people to my table who love me and I love them. And, we have ways that we can contribute to each other. And the tool that I have in the book called Draw Your Future is I drew this. I drew it for days and days. I would just actually for weeks, I would draw myself at the table and imagine who I wanted at my table, some, past, present, future, whoever would be most uplifting that I could learn from and also be able to give to.
I love that you say that because I believe that our imagination is that first step where we can really create a new version of ourselves, the future that we want, all of those different things. And it's hard because each of us have these unique struggles. And some people say that everything happens for a reason. I think sometimes just bad things happen to good people. I think that it could be a combination of both. But at the end of the day, we ultimately have a choice where we can choose to try to find the silver lining, or we can choose to just become the victim of that circumstance. And so even when those things are really, really hard, I found that for myself, at least, when I look for that silver lining, and if I look for if anything that I would be able to take away, even if it's just to prove to myself that I'm really strong and this didn't get me, keep me down, it could even be something as simple as that to give you that control back and to empower you to take that next step forward. Even maybe it's not even a step, maybe you're crawling, but you're making it one more step, one more inch. You're moving forward in whatever way that looks for you in the best way that you can now. And so through those tools that you use to activate your imagination, to envision that, there's something about that, it seems to me, that just really puts some power behind it. What are some of the tools that you use to help people overcome these side effects of bullying?
So one of the ones is the one we just discussed. And I love that. Yes, it's about using your imagination. And so that process is called Draw Your Future. And you can do it as simply as I explained. You can use it to change an image that you have that is in your mind that's not serving you. So you can change that. You can also do the whole process, and that's in the resource section in the book. And basically, it's looking at what's happening in your life now, and you want to draw and write the words for what's happening and draw. Even if you don't feel comfortable drawing, just draw, because our mind, especially our subconscious, works with images. And actually, if it isn't a great drawing, and who's to judge, right? It actually makes a bigger impact. And so I recommend that people just say, that's fantastic. Just do it, just draw it. So draw the things that are going well, and then draw the challenges. And then I also have people look at what are the superpowers that you're gaining. So it's like what you were talking about. Sometimes it's like I'm gaining strength, or like as a caregiver, maybe I'm learning patience. So you want to look at what are you gaining. And then the next part of it is to draw what you want for your future. So what do you want for your desired future? Draw and write the words. And I recommend starting out with some feelings. So do you want to feel joyful? Do you want peace? Do you want abundance? So all of those things. And then you can draw some concrete things too. And then the last part of it, and you really want to take a break in between these, right? Because it's different states of consciousness. So when you're drawing your desired future, of course, you want to take a break from drawing the past so that you are feeling uplifted. So last part is you're going to draw 3 bold steps. And I typically have people do a visualization before they do this, so they're really tuned in and relaxed. And that first step tends to be kind of bold. Like for me, it kind of shocked me because this was when I was teaching when I first did this, and it was like, quit your job. But it might be something else, like as a child being bullied, my first bold step would have probably been make new friends. And that would be pretty bold for me because I had been abandoned and felt rejected. The second step is something tactical, so something that you'll do. So for me, when I was going through that whole experience, I wanted to learn to play guitar because that was really fun. So that was my step. And then the third step is a change in consciousness. So for someone who's bullied, it might be a statement. My change in consciousness might be I'm worthy, or I'm enough, or I'm loved, and working on changing that. And then those are all bold steps. So then, like you were saying, it's taking really small steps toward each one. So little things that you can do every day to help those unfold. So that's the Draw Your Future process.
And I've had the privilege of actually going through that process with you, and I absolutely loved it. And I think that it's really great because it can fit all ages. It doesn't matter if you're 7 or if you're 77. Like, those are things that most people are able to do. And it really helps you to tap into that creative power. And I think that when you've experienced something like bullying, whether it's through school, whether it's a parent, whether it's someone that you really cared about or were close to, or whether it was somebody who was further, removed from the situation, especially when we're young, that can sink into our hardwiring. And so if we are struggling with those feelings of not being good enough, ways that those can even show up in our finances in a way that we don't recognize, can be, buying expensive purses or buying cars or houses that we really can't afford because we are trying to prove that we are worthy and we're trying to buy our acceptance. We might pay for drinks or meals or more expensive gifts than maybe we are able to afford because we're trying to fill that hole that has been left there. But we're always, whenever we are looking outside ourselves to fill that hole is never going to be filled. And so we have to turn inward. And that's what you have ultimately done, is to turn inward and to find those things that bring you joy, and to find the things that you're good at, and to find people to surround yourself with that recognize and see you for this beautiful human being that you are. And I think that's just incredible.
Thank you. Yes. Yeah. And I love what you're saying. Yes, it is going within. And, you'd ask me about tools, and I didn't want to share the other tool, which is Real Conversations, which is also in the back of the book, the resource section. And that helps people start looking at within, how am I feeling? What is that about? And how can I meet those needs? So it's really learning to give yourself tender, loving care. It all starts here within. Yes.
And depending on the bullying that we've experienced, sometimes we have this lie that lies within us that says that tender, loving care to yourself is selfish, or that you don't deserve it. Those are all lies. So I want to encourage anybody that is listening, you are absolutely worthy of love. I believe that everybody has a superpower. Everybody is here for a purpose. And it is one of the most exciting and scary journeys you will ever take, is to really get to learn yourself and get to know yourself, and to allow yourself to experience this amazing person that you are. And so I'm so glad that we have had the opportunity to talk, and that you are doing this amazing work to help people find their true selves, whether it's buried deep within them or just beyond the surface. And I loved your book. My daughter loved it as well. And so the listener should definitely go get a copy, especially if they've got any kiddos going into middle school like I do.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Great. So we're going to move into some closing questions that I ask every guest. The first one is, where can people find you?
So my website is FromBulliedToBrave.com. And that's the same as the title of the book. So if you want to buy the book on Amazon, it's From Bullied to Brave. And it's only $5. And it's especially for tweens. I kept it short with good resources, and I've kept the price low because I'd like to get the book out there, help kids.
Yes, it would make a great birthday gift, or as Christmas comes back up and, another 10 months, but it would make a great gift.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what does abundance mean to you?
So abundance, in a way, is really our birthright. So as spiritual beings, to me, I see the universe is really for us. And one of the things that really helps that manifest is being gratitude, being grateful. I'm going to say it over again. So abundance flows from a grateful heart. And so if you want more abundance in your life, no matter what that is, you want to be grateful for what you have, and then that allows more to come in.
Yes. And what is some of the best advice you've ever received?
When I think about that, I think about when my father passed on. That was one of the hardest things that I'd ever been through. And I had a teacher tell me that, life will get better. And really, that's what everybody needs to hear at some point, that there's always hope. And there was a cool acronym someone told me, hold on, pain ends. So it will get better.
Yes. And I want to just mention that if anybody needs support when it comes to bullying, if you have a child that is experiencing bullying, the Bullying Recovery Resource Center is a great place to go. I know that that's an organization that you and I actually met through, was through Drew's organization, which has a ton of resources and education. So I will put the link to her nonprofit down there as well in the show notes, so that if anybody needs some support, that they've got that resource as well.
That's terrific. Yes.
But
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Kimberly. I'm really glad we got to have this conversation. Thank you for all of the work that you are doing.
Me too. Thank you so much. And thanks for the work you're doing. You're really helping people. It's just, I know you're focusing on money, and, it's really energy, and when you help them focus on that, you're actually helping them improve and grow their whole life. So great work.
Well, thank you. As we wrap up this episode of Be Your Money Hero, remember that your financial journey is a path of self-discovery. If you have questions that you would like answered on the show, please submit them to info@beyourmoneyhero.com. If today's conversation resonated with you, share your thoughts and insights with our growing community. Subscribe for more empowering discussions. And always remember, you have the power to be your money hero. Until next time, keep growing, money heroes.